Okay, what we're going to try to do today is talk about characteristics of life. This is an introduction to these characteristics. What we did last time with the last video is talked about life in general, and we talked about life coming on the planet about 3.5 billion years ago, and we've had millions of species on this planet. We probably have millions of species on the planet today. The millions that used to be here may or may not be here, may be the same. We've had extinction, we've had evolution, we've had change. But life basically lives every place on this planet, even the most hostile environments you can imagine. 1,000 feet underneath in solid rock, 1,000 feet down in ice, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 feet above, 35,000 feet below. So you can actually find life any place on the planet, and we talked about this, but believe it or not, you still have to believe that it all came from one single solitary cell. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is the 7 characteristics of life, and before I do that, I want to kind of pause here a little bit. I'm going to let you guys consider what you think actually makes things alive, and so I'm going to pause. Really, I'm pausing here, waiting for you to come up with some ideas. Trying to be as patient as I possibly can. What's that little song? Do da do da do da do 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 da 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 bump biddy bip bop bop bop. Okay, so what are the 7 things you came up with? A lot of people will actually say oxygen. Most things you can think of as being alive do require oxygen, whether they be plants and animals. But believe it or not, there are some animals that are that are anoxic, which basically means that these plants, or these critters, will die in the presence of oxygen. It's actual poison to them. So that doesn't work. You may say movement, but there are some critters that don't move, even in this picture right here. So that doesn't work. There are lots of other characteristics that some life has, but we need to think about things that all life has. And there are 7 characteristics. You can probably find 6. You can find a different 7. This is all open to interpretation, but like the different books of religions, they all pretty much say the same thing. So the 7 things I'm going to talk about. First one is that all life is made up of cells, and that cells are capable of change. Cells are the basic unit of life. All cells come from cells, but these cells, with time, have to be able to change. You change salinity, you change oxygen level, you change light level, you change temperature, you change population density, you change elevation, you change almost anything. Critters have to be able to respond. It usually doesn't happen within a species. It usually happens after generations. So here's an example where cells, they started getting too big. Material couldn't get into it, so they actually needed an oxygen-burning bacteria, and they needed a photosynthetic bacteria. The oxygen-burning bacteria actually ended up become the mitochondria, and this photosynthetic thing became the chloroplasts in plant cells. And then we have animal cells there too, which also have the mitochondria. We don't have the ability to trap sunlight. So this is an evolutionary process that allowed plant cells or cells to get bigger and then actually evolve themselves into either an animal cell or a plant cell. Number 2, cellular organization. There's got to be order. That's what life does. It actually uses energy to break chaos. Once you actually stop taking in the energy, in other words, when you die, your cells are going to be ripped apart. They're going to be split. They're going to be ripped into atoms and molecules that will go on to other things. But life is order. Living things are able to organize simple things into more complex things. You can take in oxygen, you can take in food, carbohydrates, you can take in fat, and actually make life from that. It's actually almost like a spontaneous living environment where you're taking non-living things and turning them into living things. Humans can organize cells that are unlike into tissues. This sample, where I actually take muscle cells, and we actually make muscles of your stomach, take other tissue for the digestion or the dissolving of material, and we actually turn it into a stomach. And then we can turn that into an organ system along with the esophagus to bring food down and the intestines to actually digest and to reabsorb the water before it finally leaves your system. So there's an organization, there is an organ, order. And then the third one is a regulation. This is a sample of cellular respiration. We'll learn much more about this, but basically we take molecules like glucose and we do glycolysis. We can do this if we really need to actually get ATP. This is usually for like yeast and smaller things, but we actually can take that and turn that into other material, put it into what's called the Krebs cycle, and we can actually come out with 36 ATP. ATP is the energy of life. Plants can do this, animals can do this. The only thing that we can't do that plants do, I guess there are quite a few things that we can do that plants can't do, or plants can do that we can't do, but the plants actually can make their own sugar. We have to get that from our environment. So again, made up of cells and can evolve. Order, cellular organization. Regulation, where we can actually take materials like water, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids and actually turn them into the chemicals of life. In other words, we can control our internal environment, and we'll actually talk about that later as homeostasis. Okay, number four. Number 4 is energy processing. Living things can take energy from what you eat or from sunlight or sulfur or some organic or inorganic compound and actually use that for repairing, replacing, and for function. So your brain cells right now are using energy, I hope. This is actually a right-left portion of the brain. This one is your left side, this one is your right side, and they're actually saying that it does different things, and you can move material back, and you can watch this guy evolve into something else, and you can watch these guys evolve into something else. But basically your brain is doing some of this, or all of this right now. Response to the environment. Organisms, in order to be alive, have to be able to respond. You've all seen plants maybe leaning over towards the sunlight. Living things grow. Number 5. Living things react to the change in their environment. Populations can evolve over time. You probably aren't going to get bigger, stronger, or smarter up to a certain point. But if you actually continue to do this through generations, like your children, they could get bigger, stronger, and smarter than you and keep getting bigger and stronger and smarter, or I guess they can go the opposite direction or stay the same. Plants respond to aphids. So here's a plant that actually has adult aphids and younger aphids. Aphids go through what's called incomplete metamorphism, where they just, an instar stage, which is what these things are actually called, they actually just kind of split out of their old skin and they puff up their body and produce a new skin. And they keep doing that until they get to be the right age, and then they're reproductive adults. But this plant is actually, some plants can actually start producing chemicals that are actually irritants to the aphids or poison to the aphids. Most plants can't do that, but there are some. And then when the aphids are actually out there, they give off a pheromone that ladybugs can get out there, so ladybugs actually can respond to the aphid, and of course the aphid responds to the ladybug too by producing some chemicals, but probably tastes pretty good to the ladybug. And the last thing is reproduction. Here's another type of this is growth and development. Living things grow from the energy found in their environment, and the molecules that they take in, they can develop, they can become larger, like we just said, the aphids, incomplete metamorphism. They can actually change. We actually have an incomplete metamorphism also, that we don't go through the instar stage. That'd be kind of cool if you were 3 months old and you actually started puffing up your body, split open the skin, crawled out, and then puffed up your body more and made new skin, but we don't grow that way. This is a complete metamorphism, where we actually start with an egg and we start off with a worm-type creature, the larva, and we can actually, you can see the times on here, and they go to a pupa, which is a totally different shape, and then a different organism climbs out of it. That's a complete metamorphism. That's growth and development. And the last thing is reproduction. Living things duplicate their genetic code and produce offspring. And here are 3 examples. where you can do it asexually, where one individual can actually produce babies inside, release those, and they grow. And that's an important concept to understand, is that these things do grow and develop also. You can have budding, where the cells actually start producing buds that can grow. You can have sort of the same thing that's right there. You can have what's called fission. You can have more buds. You can even have a different type of bud, but this is all asexual. This is also an asexual reproduction. This is a leaf that's actually been cut, and you actually put it down on the ground, and it can actually start sprouting new leaves. Or new plant, and then eventually this plant will break away. This plant can survive. This plant is a totally separate individual, genetically the same as this. And then you can have what's called sexual reproduction, and here is either a mommy or daddy and a baby giraffe. This giraffe is 50% like this adult and 50% like the other adult. Okay, so that's the first thing. What we're going to be doing now is talking about each one of these 7 things in different videos. I'm hoping to keep it kind of short, but I want to actually sort of impress upon the fact of each of these 7 things, and we'll go into more depth. Thank you much. Bye.